Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is not to back or not to back. Again, I tried, I looked, I checked around for campaigns. There were like 2 or 3 that all had like 45 people backing them. There's still not a lot of active fun crowdfunding campaigns, and so until there are, we will continue to do our series of assorted crowdfunding related videos that aren't to back or not to back every single Monday until to back or not to back is back, at which point we will start doing to back or not to back every single Monday once again. This week instead, we're doing the top 10 most anticipated crowdfunding campaigns I have for this year based on the ones I remember are coming out and that I can tell you about. There are some I know that I can't tell you about, so that's a different story, but the ones that I know that I can tell you about that I remember are here. Go ahead and put down in the comments down below that, what about Alex? What about this campaign? Didn't you forget about that one? I thought you liked that game. The answer is probably yes, but I forgot about it. So today we are doing our top 10 most anticipated crowdfunding campaigns for 2025 in the tabletop category, obviously. I also have a +1 pick of one going to retail that I thought was crowdfunding. I included on the list, and then I realized it wasn't crowdfunding, but I still wanted to talk about it because now I was excited about it, so we'll talk about that too. And then next week, if we don't have to back or not to back, maybe next week's video will be my top 10 favorite campaigns from 2024. That's one I probably should do at some point. So next week is as good as day anyway, is as good as day as any, unless of course we have to back or not to back. Anyways, let's go ahead and start off. Starting off with our number 11. Our number 11 is the one that is going to retail. I thought it was going to be crowdfunding because this is T-Witches. T-Witches from the same team who brought you Flamecraft, which is why mentally, because Flamecraft was crowdfunding, I thought this would be as well. And to be clear, different publishers, same artist and designer. So in case you're like, but I didn't realize that Carbon Alchemy was doing another game. They're not. This is from Manny Vega and Sundara Tang, the designer and illustrator of Flamecraft, and this is coming to you from the Op. And it's T-Witches, and I've had a chance to play this at Gen Con, which is why I'm so excited for it, and I totally thought it was going to crowdfunding, and then I was like, you know what, let me just check this up beforehand, because the Op doesn't really do crowdfunding, and it turns out the Op doesn't really do crowdfunding. Instead, we have T-Witches coming to retail. I believe it's aiming for a Gen Con 2025 release, and oh my gosh, this game, based on what I played so far, was fun. One play only, always take that with a grain of salt. The amount of times that my opinion adjusts after one play, it's a decent enough amount that you should be wary of my excitement, but I did have a chance to play this one. Honestly, by the way, most of the games we're going to be talking about today, I have not had a chance to play. This is one of the ones that I have played already, and I liked it. I thought it was very solid. I thought it was the cuteness and accessibility of Flamecraft, but definitely a level up as far as the difficulty of what you're actually doing and how things mesh together to give you that more satisfying experience if you like a little bit more crunchy interminglingness, which I certainly do. So I do need to play it more, but as of right now, I really enjoyed my first play of Flamecraft, of T-Witches. Which means we now move to our number 10. Again, we're going to have 10 campaigns today, because very often these are games that I don't know a ton about, because we have the teases, we have the loose information, so I'll do what I can, but this is probably going to be a shorter video. Use that time to play more board games. But our number 10 is Reichbusters. Reichbusters Reloaded from Monolith, previously from Mythic Games. Monolith is taking the reins of Reichbusters and bringing it back to crowdfunding. So the reason this is my number 10 is because both things are true over here. Reichbusters was always a game that I liked it enough that I always felt that with tweaks, it could be a game that's great for me. As it was a game that I really wanted to like. I love the miniatures, I love the theme, I love the general idea of the game, but there were a few too many things that made it just good in a category and genre that I have too many great games. And so Reichbusters was a game that, it's one of those games that got away, that I felt a second edition could really bring it back. Now this is Reichbusters Reloaded. This is kind of possibly that second edition. I don't know what level of differences they're bringing to the table. The reason it's my number 10 is because the answer could be nothing. The answer could be like minor tweaks. Like I know Simon recently brought back a Super Fantasy Brawl, and they did Super Fantasy Brawl Reborn, and it's mostly Super Fantasy Brawl, which in that case is not necessarily a bad thing. That's a game that I already like, but if the Reichbusters Reloaded is basically tiny tweaks and not actual changes to the gameplay, then it'll probably still be a game that I appreciate the graphic design, I appreciate the miniatures, I appreciate the world building, all of those things I appreciate, but ultimately the gameplay is, I don't know. This has me in intrigued category more so than actual. I'm excited for the campaign, but I'm excited with the knowledge that it may still not be a game for me. Hence why it's my number 10. My number 9 is the same as this, but a little different and a little better. And that's Colosseum and Colosseum Av Titus over here from Fantasia Games. Now, first of all, I want to mention that I've loved Endless Winter. I like Unconscious Mind even more. I just played it again last night. It's so much fun. I think actually tomorrow night, I believe I'm playing with the Nightmares expansion. So it's one that I've been tabling a lot and enjoying a lot, and it's a great game. And so, on the one hand, I have my excitement for anything for Fantasia Games puts out, and the knowledge that, well, hey, this might be a great game for me. And then on the other hand, I've played Colosseum, and the original Colosseum, actually, I think I played the original Colosseum, not that I skipped the Days of Wonder version. No, the Days of Wonder is the original. I skipped the TMG version, if I'm not mistaken, but I played the original Colosseum. I thought it was a good game, but not a great game. And so a reprint of a game that I already tried can only excite me so much. The reason I am still excited, and the reason why it's still on this list, is because on the one hand, they are making some tweaks to the original game to begin with, and so those small tweaks might take the game from good to better. It wouldn't be the first time that something like that has happened, although see my previous notes on Reichbusters Reloaded as far as I can't bank on that. I can be excited, I can be intrigued, I just can't bank in it. On the other hand, this Colosseum Titus as well, and that one has me more intrigued, because that's a game that's kind of same universe-ish, but a different game. It's a standalone game, medium heavyweight, thematic Euro game, and so this one has me a lot more intrigued as to what they're doing, what they're bringing to the table with this, and whether it will or won't be a game that either leans a bit more closer to Colosseum and being a good game, but not necessarily for me, or alternatively, whether it leans into what Foundation Games has done so far, which they have delivered games that I've really enjoyed for the most part, and I'm curious whether Colosseum Titus will be in that category or not. Coming up as my number 10, 9, 8. 8 over here. Hubworld Aidalon from Earthborn Games. Now, Hubworld Aidalon is still lower because, again, I don't know a ton about the gameplay here. Some I know more about the gameplay than others. Sometimes there's like specific genres or mechanics, or even just art sometimes that pulls me in. In the case of Hubworld Aidalon, I have the knowledge of what Earthborn Games has done. They've brought Earthborn Rangers, which is incredibly well received. They're the team behind, like the team that they have, a lot of that team is the same team behind various things from Fantasy Flight, from Arkham Horror the card game. The teams, and so to that end, Hubworld Aidalon is their take on the LCG model, obviously not using the LCG word because that's from Fantasy Flight, but it's their take on a non-collectible collectible card game, effectively. So the LCG model, where you don't have to hunt down packs to get specific things, but they are regular release cycles in this card game. I believe they do have elements of what's it called, Android Netrunner. They have elements of Android Netrunner spiritually living on in this game, and that was a very highly asymmetric experience that was, I mean, it was great. It was one of the first, it was the first LCG I ever played. It has a ton of intricacies going on. If you're willing to deck build and build things out over there was a lot going on there. This is one I actually wanted to demo at PAX Unplugged this year. I didn't get a chance to. There were two that are in the category, actually. But either way, Hubworld Aidalon from Earthborn Games is my number 8. My number 7 is a cancellation that will be relaunching, I assume. I assume it will be relaunching in 2025, but Defenders of the Realm Legend Edition, this is one that I did get a chance to demo at PAX last year, not this past year, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good cooperative game that leans into enough of what the original Defenders of the Realm did that it's familiar, but branches out enough that it doesn't just feel like Pandemic, but different. Like, the original Defenders of the Realm, to me, felt like it very much was based on the Pandemic infrastructure, and then they just treated it to be more fantasy-ish. That's kind of what it just felt like, and I felt Pandemic was ultimately a cleaner, better system. Whereas Defenders of the Realm Legend Edition, at least the version I played at PAX Unplugged 2023, it felt like it maintained those elements that made Defenders of the Realm stand out, but it very much didn't just feel like a Pandemic clone. It felt like its own beast with a lot of asymmetric characters to manage, a lot of trying to take down the enemies, a lot of managing the constant horde overwhelming you while trying to power up, and feeling different enough from other games out there. Like, there's a lot of games that have you controlling heroes, defeating enemies, and trying to win. But how each game differentiates itself is often going to be the determining factor as to whether I want it in my collection or whether it's just a good game that I played and moved on from. Defenders of the Realm, again, I need more plays. I only have that one play at PAX Unplugged 2023, so I do need more plays before I give you a full review or even first impressions for that matter. But as a stand, well, I guess one play is first impressions. So my one play on first impressions was I really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to when this relaunches and seeing. Well, I do want to see this brought to life. So I hope this wasn't the last we saw of it. Coming in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I always do this. I can't count. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Coming in at number 6 over here, we have Final Titan by NerdLab Games. Now, this one has me intrigued both because the publisher, but also because the art already has me intrigued, but then the mechanics in general as well, as a drafting game where you draft a pool of heroes as a draft battler. I believe it's kind of leaning into the auto battler concept, but less auto battler, a little bit more control agency. It's a draft battler where you draft your powerful team and face off against your friends in fast-paced showdowns. Now, these kinds of games, the reason this is lower for me is these kinds of games can be hit or miss. The premise and the promise of just an easily absorbable game that just has tons of powers, tons of heroes that you can easily dive into and have a great time, that premise exists all the time, but very few games actually deliver well on that premise. Now, I don't know what it is about this one that has me more excited about whether it will or won't deliver on that premise, but it might just be the art. I am a sucker for good art. The characters have good art. The general idea of drafting a team of heroes, of having a combination of just just things that are working for you as you go through your characters, it just seems like it could be fast-paced, frenetic fun. That is the kind of genre I'm kind of expecting here. I'm not expecting a super nuanced, tactical card game. I'm not expecting a game where you spend hours building your decks and crafting your ultimate combinations. I'm expecting a game where that gives you the fun of just literally just open a pack, draft a bunch of cards, face off against each other, except it's not a collectible card game where you open a pack, but it has that vibe of just draft, build, attack, rinse and repeat. I am hopeful and optimistic about this one. It may not deliver for me. I am very cognizant that the more you lean into just fast-paced fun, the more you also have the opportunity for those games to be misses, or for them to be not memorable, I should say. Not even misses, but just not memorable. So I have... all my excitement is appropriately managed in my head, where I really want to like this game, and I think I will, but also I might not. And so we'll see. But that's my number 5. My number 4 is one where I don't really have a page to show you, because it's Brass Birmingham. And if you're like, doesn't that exist already? Yes, it does. But supposedly, by all accounts, I believe there are plans to have a Brass campaign in 2025. They've talked about this for a while, to have a follow-up from Brass, designed by Gavin Brown, by Martin Wallace. I don't know fully the whole team that's going to be involved. I don't know if Matt Tolman will be involved. But they basically have another Brass coming out. They had Brass Lancashire, they have Brass Birmingham, and there is another Brass that should be coming out in 2025, unless things get pushed off indefinitely, which certainly can happen. And so I'm intrigued by it, because Brass is an incredible game. It's lower down on my list. Again, low is relative. It's already at number 5 over here, but it's slightly lower down only because Brass is a game that I only table a few times a year anyway, and historically, I mean, once I played Brass Lancashire and Brass Birmingham, I chose to keep Brass Birmingham and get rid of Brass Lancashire. It's not a game that I play enough that I need almost exactly similar versions of the same game. I was like, you know what, I'll take the one that I think is slightly better for me. And so that's why it's a little bit lower down this list. On the one hand, there's the amount that I enjoy Brass, and therefore I'm excited for anything they do new in that universe. On the other hand, there's the knowledge that if I play it, it might replace Brass Birmingham, or alternatively, I might think Brass Birmingham is the better game, and either way, this is kind of more proxying in a replacement game, and it's very unlikely to be a full new game, rather a tweak or twist. I think the similarities between Lancashire and Birmingham have me a drop more hesitant on how excited I should be for this new Brass, but I am excited for whenever it does launch. Coming in number 4, we have Onward, the MOBA board game from Skytier Games. And I do hope they change the cover of this. I find the cover, I don't love the cover here. I hope this is placeholder. I don't know if it is. I think the original cover popped much more, and there's, I don't know. I don't love the cover. I'm going to start with that. But once I'm done with the cover part, I really enjoy Skytier. And their attempt over here in Onward, which is a re-implementation of Skytier, is their attempt to take the best things about Skytier, the things that worked well that people liked, and then to carry it forward into a new game while removing some of the complexity, some of the things that didn't work as well, changing up some of the things. They have a great section, if you're a fan of Skytier, they have a great section over here of what they added, what they kept, and what they removed from the Skytier game. But I'll say, first of all, the game just looks better. Offhand, the game looks better, which is always a good start. Like I said, I'm a sucker for a game, how a game looks. I mean, I literally started this particular game by talking about how I don't think the cover looks that great, but the board, the cards over here, all of this looks great, and this is very much more important. How a game looks on the table is much more important than the box, and so overall this looks really cool. I like the style of it. They're moving away from hexes, they're going for just general sections of the board, but they are changing other things as well that have me a drop nervous. They're removing some of the gold cards from Skytier that to me made the game highly modular, so that's a part that has me a drop more nervous. Will I like the original Skytier more, or will I like Onward? Will Onward replace Skytier? Will Skytier replace Onward? Will I have both? Almost certainly not. I don't feel the need for both. One of them is going to be better than the other, and they're going to be similar enough. There are times, like I have Zombicide Black Flag and Marvel Zombies. There are times where I have multiple copies of a similar game, but you really have to be the most played games in my collection for that to work. You can't be the game that I table a few times a year, and then me having two versions of the same thing. If I table you a lot, I don't mind having multiple versions of the same thing. If I don't table you a lot, I very much do mind splitting those plays, if that makes sense. But either way, Onward over here, very excited, very interested, a little bit nervous. I guess I trust the developer, I trust the designer enough to believe that what they're doing with this game is likely a step forward. I like Skytier Horde as well. It's a very different game in the same universe, so I trust them enough to believe that this is a step forward and not a step backwards. Sometimes when you have companies putting out new versions of games, sometimes it can be a step backwards, and sometimes that's just case by case, that's person by person. Everyone's going to have their own personal tastes, and you can never make everyone happy, but I am excited about Onward, the MOBA board game from Skytier. Coming in number 3, we've gone to Gaia from Rose Gauntlet Entertainment. this is one of the other ones that I wanted to table at PAX Unplugged this past year, didn't have a chance to, but first of all, Rose Gauntlet Entertainment, I've generally enjoyed their games. I love, oh my gosh, I love Keystone North America, I enjoy Wild Gardens, particularly the solo mode. I find it's a very fun, you know, just kind of story-based experience as you play through the game as well, but this is a very different game from them. This is an entirely different genre from the typical, more, what's the right word, more, not peaceful, zen-like, cozy. They typically make more cozy games, and Gone to Gaia seems to be a very different game than what they've typically done. This is a 1 to 2 player, sprawling, cooperative, roguelite campaign. This over here, combined with the publisher on its own, combined with these elements over here, that very much are the kinds of things that I like. Addictive roguelite gameplay, an engrossing narrative, a box packed with secrets, a living town, the birds is popular with non-playable characters, each with a life of their own, and their opinion of you matters. In this world, actions always have consequences. All of this sounds completely up my alley. And so Gone to Gaia is one that I'm very excited for. I probably know the least about this one compared to anything else that I talked about today, except for the general buzzwords that they have, the publisher, and then again, those words of all those things about the 1 to 2 player campaign, roguelite, accessible, fun, narrative, consequences, all of those could be a great experience for me. This is very much one that my anticipation is what has it at the ranking at the number 3 spot. This is not based off anything other than anticipation, but I am very excited to play Gone to Gaia when I have a chance to. My number 2 pick over here is A Place for All My Books. This is coming to you from Kurt Covert from Smirk and Dagger Games. A Place for All My Books is one that I had a chance to see at PAX Unplugged, not play, but it's a cozy game of gathering, organizing, and admiring good books. Now, cozy games can work for me. It's always tricky because cozy games can be too light, but they also have historically also been some of my favorite games. It really just depends on how well you do what you're trying to do. Games like Cascadia, like Barren Park, are so easily accessible and just fun experiences. And then there's games that I just find too light and not engaging enough. And I don't know which one this will be, but it's a game about all about gathering, organizing, and admiring good books. You're collecting books, you're bringing them home, you're organizing the way you like, and it celebrates the book lover and all of us. But this game overall, from what I saw at PAX Unplugged, the action economy of trying to organize your bookshelf, of trying to collect books and organize your bookshelf, there have been games that have done this with board games. There's like Shelfie Stacker and all that. This is my first time seeing this with a book game. There are other book-themed games. There's that library. There's a few library-themed games. There's also that real-time game from, I can't remember the name, the publisher. There are a bunch of other book-themed games, Payback Adventures. There's a lot of book-themed games, but organizing books in this one, the Mythenium Magic Library, that's the closest one that would probably be similar to this one. Although there's also that other one. Oh my gosh, there's that one from Renegade that has you trying to organize bookshelves in alphabetical order. That's also an interesting one. But they're all very different in how they operate. This one seems the most up my alley in terms of what I personally would enjoy as far as the action economy of it. From what I saw of it at PAX Unplugged, it looks like it'll have enough meat on its bones to keep me engaged. I don't fully know, so again, I have all my higher picks over here. I'll have all these qualifications of, I don't know if these games are for me, I don't know, I have no clue. And the truth is, for all these games, I don't know. Past the ones I've played, like Defenders of the Realm, like having played that, I have a better sense of where things are. Or a variation of Brass, or Sky Tier and Onward. Those are things that, fine, I have a bit more knowledge about. But even then, I'm not certain if they'll be better or worse than their prior versions. But some of the picks that I'm more excited about are still ones that I need to table to see if my excitement will actually turn into a game that I like. Because as of right now, it's just excitement. And then my number 1 most anticipated campaign is Massive Darkness, Dungeons of Shadowreach over here from Simon. This is one that I love Massive Darkness. I've had a ton of fun with Massive Darkness. I really enjoy the game. My biggest critique has been around balancing and sometimes things being too easy depending on player count and how you play through the game. There are house rules you can do to adjust for that, which I do utilize, but I never love utilizing house rules because it always comes down to, okay, great, I'm recommending this game to other people, but I made tweaks to it. Now, to be fair, I loved Massive Darkness a lot before I ever added a house rule. At a certain point, I was like, I'm having fun, but I'm not feeling challenged enough. And so I looked things up and then found things to make it more challenging. But past that, I am excited for this. I'm excited for what they're bringing new to the game. It is one where I have too much content as it is. I have all the original content for the first Massive Darkness, and I need to find out or question for myself whether that is something I still need or not, whether I get rid of all my original content or not. It's too much. It's too much, and they're not different enough. They're not meaningfully different. The things I like about the game are the character classes. The old content is not meaningfully different enough to have so many different hordes in your dungeon, but I mean, I'm not getting rid of it yet. But either way, Massive Darkness over here, Dungeons of Shadowreach, this is the one that I'm most excited just based on it being more content for a game I really enjoy, like a lot, and I'm always excited for a new excuse to table it. And so that's what we have over here. We have 10 campaigns plus that one retail game, the T-Witches, of games that I'm excited about for 2025. I'm sure we'll have a ton more that comes out as the year goes on. There'll be a ton more stuff that gets shown, that we find out about, and I will have a lot more to talk about, but at least for right now, these are my top 10 most anticipated crowdfunding games for 2025. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one. Mahatma Gandhi, as you know, walked barefoot most of the time, which produced an impressive set of calluses on his feet. He also ate very little, which made him rather frail, and with his odd diet, he suffered from bad breath, which made him a super callous fragile mystic hexed by halitosis.